An instrument of time that flies high.
We're on board with a company which is ingrained in aviation since the day they began to manufacture.
With a powerful new engine, a nearly indestructible case, and features that dazzle.
We are trying to achieve the highest quality, the highest precision.
The harder and longer you work on the watch, the more beautiful it becomes.
From professionals to celebrities,
I've never seen a watch that people are more proud to wear than a Breitling.
they all aspire to this look that transcends day and night.
They want a watch that they can use every day in every single situation, but still that they look smart.
This can only be the legendary Chronomat from the super factories of Breitling. Precision, accuracy, strength. The key characteristics of great aviators, great flying machines, and the world's finest timepieces. And no luxury watch manufacturer better represents this unbreakable bond than over 125-year-old Swiss legend, Breitling.
When you think about how accurate we have to be flying with the jets, you think about what Breitling wants to achieve with the products.
You have the use of your watch and it's good looking. What do you want more?
And the heart and soul of Breitling is the Chronomat. A watch inspired and used by pilots around the world, including Breitling's own jet team. Featuring a large, easily readable face, prominent pushers and crown, rugged, luxurious looks, high performance, and of course, the additional iconic timekeeping stopwatch known as a chronograph.
Chronomat is really the symbol of the modern Breitling. It's a classic, having all the ingredient of Breitling culture, of Breitling significant aesthetic details, but in a very modern way.
Switzerland, the Jura mountain region, the traditional home of watchmaking. Here, the Chronomat comes alive in three main factories. In Porrentruy, experienced craftsmen and women create the Chronomat's robust case. The distinctive dials in La Chaux-de-Fonds. And close by, also in La Chaux-de-Fonds, the process begins at Breitling's celebrated chronometry factory. Here, talented technicians create the heart of the Chronomat, called the movement.
It is the mechanism, all the gears, all the small things required to be able to display the time. That's the engine of the watch.
The Chronomat's engine is known as the B01 movement. It's a custom-designed complex system of 346 parts that took Breitling engineers 5 years to develop. Today, it's the best calendar-complete chronograph movement in the world. Powerful, reliable, and 99.9% accurate. It's the foundation of every Chronomat. Here's how the Chronomat's mechanical movement works. Energy created by winding is stored inside this barrel by the mainspring. As the energy is released, it's transferred to a set of gears called the wheel train. Now here comes the important part. To display the time very accurately, these gears must turn at a precise rate, and that's the job of what's called the escapement. Within it are two critical regulating devices, the balance wheel and a spiral spring that controls its rate, called the hairspring. Together, they establish and fine-tune the rhythm of the watch. Last, laid on top, are functions like the calendar and the stopwatch.
The big challenge we have with mechanical movement, they are functional 24 hours a day. So I thought about a little bit, but I found no other examples except the heart, the human heart, which is achieving this goal, 100% time of functioning for years.
Building the Chronomat's movement takes place in three main areas: subassembly, main assembly, and the start of it all, machining. This is where computer-driven digital milling devices, called CNC machines, transform brass blanks into the foundation of the movement, called the main plate. In less than an hour, they drill 55 holes in bridges, performing over 240 individual operations. Next, subassembly. Here's where 20 master technicians pre-assemble individual components. This station is the crown jewel of subassembly. Highly precise robots place tiny rubies onto the main plate. Positioned adjacent to moving parts, they reduce friction and wear and tear and increase durability. Next, it's time to put the movement's components together in main assembly. On this high-tech assembly line, traditional watchmaking skills and ultra-modern technology meet.
Movement is going through 38 positions. Some are automatic, but most of them, more than 28, are manual, where the craftsmanship is very important.
At the first station, a technician installs the Chronomat's wheel train. Next, the barrel containing the power storage unit, the mainspring.
This is the mainspring. The mainspring is 550 millimeters long.
This thin strand of coiled wire stores more than 3 days or 70 total hours of energy. Now a pivotal moment. To fine-tune and control the pace of the movement, watchmaker Denise Billaud drops in the regulating device known as the escapement. With a tiny flick of the balance wheel, tick-tock, the heart begins to beat. Now for functions like the chronograph and the date. They're built on top of the movement. First, a watchmaker drops in special gears that transfer energy from the balance wheel to the chronograph. Then she attaches a part called the chronograph-going train bridge that holds the parts in place. Next, to display the date, a master builder adds the date ring and engages a tiny tooth. At midnight, the tooth moves the ring forward. This one-of-a-kind patented Breitling system allows any user to change the date at any time, even when the tooth's engaged, without breaking.
This tooth is disengaging itself, so misuse is not possible with our Breitling movement.
Now, at the end of the assembly line, a final touch so important, the entire building is named after it. Chronometry, the science of measuring time. Watchmaker Fatima Pereira ensures the accuracy of the watch by carefully adjusting the rate of the balance wheel. She does this by lengthening or shortening the hairspring and removing tiny, tiny amounts of material from the balance wheel.
A final touch that will guarantee that you have the right time every day.
We tried to do that automatically with a machine, but at the end, the machine was a little bit dumb. Our best watchmakers are still the only ones who can do that properly.
And now, the engine of the watch, the movement, is complete. It's the turn of the 19th century, and the world is gripped by amazing aviation innovations. From the Wright brothers' first flight to Louis Blériot's historic crossing of the English Channel, there's no stopping these pioneers and their flying machines. And during this time, a young Swiss watchmaker named Leon Breitling gains a reputation for making precision timing instruments and specialized watches with a stopwatch function known as a chronograph.
The connection between Breitling and aviation began very early. He was known for his instruments of measurement, chronographs, counters, and the first aviators were quick to adopt these instruments. They needed to measure the duration of a flight in order to master their flight times.
Leon surpasses his competition by making his mechanisms simple, accurate, and reliable.
In a very real way, these were cutting-edge scientific instruments that helped mankind make sense of his surroundings. It was like having the kind of latest sort of iPad.
In 1914, Leon Breitling's son Gaston takes over. Watchmaking genius runs in the family. Gaston finds clever ways to make chronographs practical and easy to use. His most famous invention? A wrist chronograph with separate start, stop, and reset operations. Pilots love it. For the first time, they can measure the total time of a journey, even if there are breaks in between. In 1932, a third generation, Willy Breitling, enters the family business. His first innovation? A second independent reset push piece. It makes the stopwatch chronograph function easier to use and gives visual balance to the face. Today, this design is still the look of every modern chronograph watch. During World War II, Willy solidifies Breitling's link with aviation by developing a line of onboard chronographs for cockpit instrument panels. In Royal Air Force bombers, Breitling gains a worldwide reputation for accuracy and reliability. In the 50s, Willy transforms Breitling from war to peace and launches the Navitimer, a wristwatch made for civilian pilots with a circular slide rule. It becomes the official watch of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the most iconic Breitling model ever made. Under Willy's leadership, Breitling thrives.
He was a great communicator. I think that he played a big role because he really brought Breitling to the world.
But Willy and Breitling face challenges ahead. The world and watchmaking are changing forever. Will they be ready for a new era? The strength of an aircraft depends on its fuselage. A tough shell that protects the pilot and hundreds of working parts inside. Breitling engineers used this same philosophy when they created the Chronomat's solid steel case. It must withstand every bump, bang, and knock while protecting the delicate parts inside. The Chronomat's tough and ultra-refined case is born in Parentry. It's a 5-step process of shaping, machining, welding, polishing, and final assembly.
This job requires great attention to detail, but it's also rewarding because you create the entire piece, so there's an element of satisfaction.
It all starts in the shaping department. Here, stainless steel bars are transformed into case blanks through a series of stamping operations. To begin, a metal worker feeds a stainless steel bar into a hydraulic punch. 40 tons of force punches out the center holes like a hot knife through butter. Next, the metal worker uses the punch to cut a rough blank of the outer case. Then, the blanks move through 15 different stamping machines, each further refining and perfecting the case's shape. Between each stamping step, specialized ovens heat the cases up to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This further strengthens the steel and makes the cases resistant to fractures and breaks. The next step, machining. High-tech CNC machines take the stamped blanks and mill cut any complex shapes and drill fine holes for parts like the crowns or winding knob. After that, welding. Every Chronomat is certified to a depth of 1,640 feet below the surface. To ensure a waterproof case, every part must be attached perfectly. To get the job done, technicians apply a paste containing an atomized metal powder to each piece. Next, the parts are baked in specialized ovens. This melts the metal and creates a permanent bond.
It's really high-tech. The welding is a way of assembling the case that requires great meticulousness, great self-control, and a lot of confidence in the people that you work with.
Now for one of the most important steps, polishing. To get the luxurious Breitling look and shine, every case spends time in the hands of highly skilled and respected polishers. It takes years of experience. Press with too little force and the case remains dull. Press too hard and you destroy the shape. Do it just right and you get a sophisticated, dazzling shine. Last, in final assembly, a technician puts together all the parts that make up the Chronomat's case. The super hard glass covering called the crystal, the steel back, and finally, the steel rim surrounding the crystal called the bezel. The Chronomat's case is complete. It's the late 1970s, and Willy Breitling, the third-generation leader of Breitling, faces his biggest challenge yet: the invention of the quartz watch. Instead of complex parts and movements, quartz watches use electronic resonators and quartz crystals to keep time. They're simple, cheap, and easily mass-produced. Soon, quartz watches flood the market. It's a time known in the mechanical watchmaking world as the crisis. The Swiss watch industry is decimated.
In the 70s, I think that the feeling in the Jura region of Switzerland was pretty gloomy. In the end, thousands of jobs disappeared, and it was really a time when a lot of people thought that mechanical watchmaking was dead.
Breitling now faces bankruptcy. And at the age of 72, Willy Breitling's ailing. But he refuses to let the Breitling name die. He looks for a successor and finds it in Ernest Schneider, a pilot and a watchmaker. Willy convinces Ernest to buy the company.
So you need to be a bit crazy to buy a company in the late 70s, which is specialized on mechanical movement when everybody's talking about quartz.
But Ernest has a bold idea. The Italian Army's Frecce Tricolore, a world-famous aerobatics team, has issued a design request. They want an official watch celebrating the spirit of the team. Ernest takes on the challenge.
He said to himself, I'm not going to offer them an existing model. I'm going to create a model, and I'm going to create it with them.
Ernest's watch is large, robust, ultra-functional, and original. The Italians love it.
And where the Italians led, other Europeans followed, and gradually it got traction because of its sort of cult status, if you like. There was a fashion for it, and the Italians love fashions. So this became a cult watch. I mean, I remember it very well when I saw my first Chronomat.
Ernest knows he's onto a good thing. He launches a new watch based on the Tricolore design. It's called the Chronomat. It becomes the modern face of Breitling. And Ernest Schneider, his son Teddy, and the Schneider family continue the Chronomat vision today. While flying an aircraft, pilots need a watch they can read quickly and accurately, in any condition. Breitling designers, led by Eddie Schopfer, applied the same philosophy to the Chronomat's dial. They worked and reworked every detail until they had the perfect mix of luxurious form and function. When the design was complete, Eddie knew he had created something special.
I get a tingle up my spine each time I come up with a truly successful timepiece, something well made. I get a tingle up my spine. That's a really good sign.
La Chaux de Fonds, the birthplace of every Breitling dial. It takes 13 weeks and over 60 operations to create the fine elements that you find in each Chronomat dial.
I think that's all about luxury watches, is going into very small details that you can hardly not see, but that makes a big difference. The way the reflection of the light and the index that is been separately machined and polished by hand, everything, that's the difference.
It's a journey that takes place in three main areas: coloring, marking and decoration, and the first stage, rough hew or stamping. To begin, team member Michel Mugli attaches a 132-pound brass spool to a stamping machine. It's a bit like threading a film projector with a 600-foot metal reel. Now, the machine takes over. First, it attaches the fastening feet. Next, it cuts the disc, pierces the holes for the hands, and punches out the date window. The end result? The blank for a Chronomat dial.
The Chronomat dial demands an incredible amount of precision. There are the crevices, the filaments, and the drilling. Working on the dial is always a challenge. The quality of the dial speaks to the beauty of the whole watch in the end. Plus, the more it takes, the more difficult to work, the more beautiful to watch.
Next, the blank moves to the electroplating and lacquering department for coloring. Here, a successive series of galvanic or electrochemical baths take the dials from drab to fab.
Many baths are needed to prepare the parts so they're ready for galvanizing. And then afterwards, you need a few more baths to get the color you want. The precision of the detail, it's really to be as consistent as possible in order to get colors that are always the same, that we always make the pieces the same as those we made even a few years ago.
To protect the colored surface, painter Spomenka Rakanovic uses a unique paint gun to cover the dial with a UV-resistant coating.
My tool is a very special tool. It's a gun which you can see is golden. It has little sapphires on it. It's a gun that is very, very expensive. And we use it because it's precise and it keeps everything clean.
Now, the last step. The intricate work of decorating the dial. For easy reading, every detail must be crisp, clear, and accurate. The three small inner dials are one of the Chronomat's most noticeable features. The first two are the 30-minute totalizer and 12-hour totalizer. They keep track of elapsed time when the stopwatch function is engaged. And the last dial is the small seconds dial, which counts the seconds for the watch. A team member uses an ink-coated silicone pad to print individual patterns on the dial. The scales and reference points around the outside of the dial are critical to the watch's performance. a technician uses a bladder press to print markings onto the dial. Known as the tachometer scale, they're used to calculate speed and distance. They can also be used to record how many tasks are completed in an hour. For accurate calculations, each marking must be perfect. This next step takes concentration and dexterity. Master decorator Patricia Ike hand applies the hour markers. And for the finishing touch, the solid gold Breitling logo. The Chronomat's distinctive dial is complete. The Chronometry Building in La Chaux-de-Fonds, the site of the Chronomat's final assembly, also known as casing up. This is where the dial, hands, movement, case, and bracelet come together. It's the culmination of hundreds of hours of craftsmanship, meticulous attention to detail, and state-of-the-art manufacturing.
At the end, when you assemble, you don't have to ask yourself the question, is it going to work or not? Yes, it's going to work, because at each stage of the manufacturing, you have the right components, the right dimensions, and the right surface quality, because, of course, our job is to maintain a very high beauty of each single component.
The stakes are high. For this all-important last stage of production, workers take every precaution to keep the environment 100% dust-free. Even a speck of dust risks ruining the accuracy and beauty of the watch.
We have a special entry that allows everyone to change shoes, not to bring in that dust. Visitors are wearing covers. The other dust coming from clothes, fabrics, carton, paper has to be reduced as much as possible. And we do it by renewing the air.
First up, hand and dial assembly. Master technician Vivian Spielman connects the dial to the movement. She slides the dial under a specialized attachment press and gently fits the tiny hands in place. It's tricky, delicate work.
Sometimes by just touching them, you destroy them. So you need tools and equipment to make sure that while handling these pieces, you don't hurt them or you don't deform them.
Next, a team member places the assembled dial, hands, and movement inside the stainless steel case, completing what's called the watch head. Once assembled, the watch head is subjected to another round of quality controls. In all, during the entire production process, each Breitling Chronomat endures over 1,000 tests. Now that the Chronomat has once again been certified as perfect, the bracelet is attached. All that's left is packing. Complete with its birth certificate, a new Breitling Chronomat is born. Precision, accuracy, beauty, and strength. The Breitling Chronomat. Crafted for men who live on the edge, where precision and talent meet. A legendary watch to take Breitling forward to another 100 years of watchmaking excellence.